A young man returns to Nigeria, selling cashew, tries palm oil, comes back to rice, 4,000 hectares, does cocoa, then now doing fertilizer. Am I correct?
Correct.
Teslim Bello-Osagie is a global chartered accountant who shifted from traditional finance into agribusiness after spotting key gaps in Africa's value chain. By merging his financial expertise with hands-on industry insight, he now builds sustainable agricultural systems that empower farmers, strengthen supply chains, and drive measurable economic growth.
You don't need to be dirty to be in agriculture. The other parts of the value chain that you don't need to get dirty, and in fact, more people need to get involved.
But we do not even produce enough palm oil to meet our local demand.
Correct. We've had a deficit of close to about 1 million tons yearly for donkey years now. You just have two key players.
They perform better than the oil and gas companies.
Oh yes, in terms of top 10 performing stocks, you have Okuma and Press.
Run me through the mechanics of this. 3,500 hectares of cocoa. That's how many tons?
Between 3,000 to 3,500 tons. In monetary terms, around $20 million.
Yearly?
Yes.
So you are making these farmers rich.
Of course.
I have to be careful with this episode because I don't want anyone watching this and then they will not say, I want to go into cocoa. People often say that the agri space is very...
That's something I've seen consistently in Nigeria, where you have opportunities, but you don't have trustworthy people to handle affairs and becomes an issue.
What are the risks? What has been your experience? How do you go about spotting an opportunity? What were the opportunities that you saw?
Exactly. Very good question. It's all about understanding that
Welcome, guys, to Venture Valley, where we bring you the best of conversations around people who are building in Africa. And on today's episode, I've got a very, very special guest who is someone that I think you'll get to find out more about in the episode. However, if you're on this channel for the first time, something you could do to help us is ensure you like, you subscribe, you comment, you share with other people who would also value valuable content just like this. That's the way the channel grows, and that's the way we'll be able to bring you more guests on this platform who will be able to deliver value for us. The rationale behind this podcast is to curate conversations around people building from the valley, and our goal is to get people who are actually just busy building that they might not have so much time to document the lessons learned. Our job is to help them bring out these lessons through asking the right questions that will be able to inspire people to also create businesses just like them or dare new things that maybe they were scared of daring before. So join me in this episode today. Teslim, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing today?
Well, not bad. Better.
Thank you so much for making out time to join us on today's podcast. I think for me, one of the reasons why I reached out to you was I wanted a scenario where you get to share your story. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, that our goal is to syndicate stories around people who are building from the Valley of Africa, where they are building out businesses, building out even social enterprises, even governance, really, people that are just basically building the future or this place that we call home in Africa. I think your story is quite unique to me because you started out with a career in finance. And then right now, I think you're now many more things. So how do you introduce yourself right there? Someone asks, who is Teslim Bello-Osagie? How do you describe yourself?
Very interesting question. So Teslim Bello-Osagie is a young man that wears many hats. So, well, to be very, very candid, so the first hat I wear is that I'm a global chartered accountant. Okay. And I think that profession gave me wings to fly into every other team that I've ventured into over the last 13, 14 years. Starting off as an accountant wasn't very easy because I was a science student in secondary school. And so I had to literally do a crash program into accounting. But I found it very interesting because I grew up as a very meticulous young man, and so teenager. Growing into who I now became gave me some kind of insight on why I needed to also, outside studying accounting, but applying it and trying to develop other sectors. So straight up from accounting, I decided accounting and finance, because that was my combined honors for my postgraduate from the University of Manchester Business School. I decided, there was every need for me to now look at the agricultural sector back in Nigeria. Primarily because I'd also gone to the London Business School for private equity, and I felt there were a lot of transactions that were lurking around in Nigeria. And the sector that I felt contributed the most to the gross domestic product and employed the most was agriculture. And I decided, okay, let me go into this sector. So I pivoted directly into the agricultural sector. But
from finance?
Yes, from finance. So I coined something very interesting, agricultural finance, right, to give me some kind of comfort, because I didn't study agriculture. So the best way to look at it was, if I was going into agriculture, then I should look at it from the consultancy prism. Okay. And I understood that no matter the business, it all boils down to
numbers.
And with my very solid background in accounting and finance, I will be able to understand at least the numbers relating to this sector. And that's why I delved into the agricultural sector. Then from the agricultural sector, naturally, the family's business was real estate and oil and gas. So I had no other option but to also look at it from being a director in the family business, right? So, and then I also had to look at money transfers, derivatives. So it's basically has been a blend. And with the consultancy, the bit about being a management consultant is that you're open to different sectors. You have clients that come to you and they want to basically understand what is going on in their business. And so you start off from the balance sheet and P&L to try to understand. And from there, with some understanding of what's going on with the numbers, you can now advise them on.
So you had a management consultancy background?
Well, by virtue of my ACCA training, it exposed me to advanced management and business analysis. And so I was now able to apply those skills because we actually had various concepts, SWOT analysis, PESO, Boston consulting metrics, and all that to analyze various case studies. So naturally, the businesses came as case studies to me for me to analyze.
Yeah, I mean, most of those schools typically run based on like a case study model. Yeah. They typically give you different case studies. So is that what you're referring to? Like you basically...
Yes. So for Manchester and London Business School was basically case study driven, and also in ACCA, to qualify as a global chartered accountant, we also faced the case studies too. So I found myself studying various case studies, and then now applying those reviewed case studies and localizing it into Nigerian context.
So, but how did you were based in the UK. You woke up one morning and said, I'm going back to Nigeria to do agric. How was that? Was it like a eureka moment? Was it an insight you saw? What exactly drove you to say, I'm coming to Nigeria and I'm going to come to agric? And what was the areas what were the opportunities that you saw as a consultant? Well,
to be very candid with you, it wasn't like a eureka moment because it was kind of deliberate. I was trading derivatives. So derivatives had underlying assets as either currencies or soft commodities like oil, palm, and cocoa. So I was already trading those futures, right? But something stuck in my head. Okay, why will I be dealing with all these derivatives and not the actual soft commodity itself? But I think the light bulb moment for me was when I went to Birmingham to see a friend who had just lost his job in London Underground and was like helping himself by moving from helping people to move from Birmingham to London and London to Birmingham with his van. And you had people asking him to come up, back to the Midlands in Birmingham, to come with oil palm, that's palm oil, products from Africa, Gary, and the rest of it. And meeting him, he literally said, it seems he cannot get good palm oil in the UK. And I was like, what do you mean? It was like, this thing is from Africa. I need palm oil. I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And before that, I'd already been nursing the thoughts of actually understanding what made companies like Cadbury what they were. And so going to Birmingham, going to Bournville, Village Trust to see, understand what the Cadbury brothers did with cocoa. So it was more or less like some kind of further validation that I needed to go back to develop the agricultural sector, focusing on oil palm and cocoa. I had an opportunity to export oil palm. I also had an opportunity now to look at cocoa from Nigeria, right? So I decided to go back to Nigeria, and that was like the defining moment.
So when you came back to Nigeria, I mean, most people are typically leaving Nigeria, but you decided to come back. What year was this?
So I returned back to Nigeria in 2000 and finally in 2015.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was when you began your exploration in agriculture.
Yes. So coming back, I decided to now look at trading because I was already used to trading, but now I needed to now trade like the physical commodities. So I looked at cashew nuts. I looked at cashew nuts looked at oil palm and cocoa. Cashew nut because I got invited by a friend of mine who was from India to the cashew convention. Apparently that was the first cashew convention in the UAE,
wow.
Dubai. So I got there and all I was seeing were people signing deals and for export transactions. So,
how big were these deals?
Yeah, honestly, it was quite big. So imagine
cashew that we eat.
Yes. Say raw cashew nut, right? Not processed imagine sitting next to the biggest processor in India of raw cashew nut, and all that came to my mind was yes, this seems like an opportunity. So coming back to Nigeria, first I decided I didn't need to put all my eggs in one basket. I needed to look at, I'd already had the feeling that oil palm and cocoa, but cashew was also another opportunity after the conference. So I went to Edo State, where I'm from, and I decided to visit the institute. And I said I needed some quantity
That's the oil palm institute?
Oil palm, yeah, NIFO.
Okay.
Right, I needed some oil palm. And they were like, "Are you joking? This is an institute. You don't get oil palm here. You need to go. You need to roll your sleeves. You need to roll your sleeves, gentlemen, and go into where you have the mills to process." I was like, "Okay." So that was the very first root shock for me. So I decided to go to an institution that I felt would give me some cover, and I said, "Oh, I'm a chartered accountant and you're Bank of Agriculture. Please, can you give me some insight on where I can get oil palm, maybe from those that you are funding?" And it was funny, right? So the MD said, "Oh," I said I was bold enough. I said I wanted to see the MD, and maybe because of my family name, he accepted that I sit down. So I had to sit down with him, and I told him, "MD, please, I need to meet those that are processing oil palm." And he was kind enough. He gave me 2 people like that were processing. And so that was more or less like
am
the
I
first
guessing
thing.
Presco and Okomu?
Not Presco and Okumu, obviously, because those are big players. He gave me like a small to mid-cap company that I could work with. And so I found myself in Edo State back in Edo State, visiting a mill, and I was able to get some oil from palm oil. But the challenge was the quantity was not enough. So instead of even looking at export, I found out that Nigeria had already put some kind of tariff, 35% tariff. So the price of oil palm trading locally was more expensive. So it was better to trade locally than to even export.
Really?
So that was less. That was like an eye-opener. The second thing I found out was that most of the mills, because they don't have strippers to strip the fruit bunches off, then now process it, they have to leave it for the fruit bunches to soften up for about 3-4 days before they now process it. So there was what they produced was called traditional palm oil. So the free fatty acid was above 5%.
Right. Which is not good for
which
the
is not
markets.
good. Yeah, which is not good for. So I just found myself in a quagmire because I had some quantity of special palm oil from this special mill, but I didn't have enough.
But why were the tariffs there?
To discourage imports. That was why
palm
the
oil.
government of Obasanjo put 35% tariffs.
Oh, has it been removed?
No, it hasn't been removed.
That's interesting. But we do not even produce enough palm oil to meet our local demand.
Correct. So the challenge has been that we've had a deficit of close to about 1 million tons yearly for donkey years now.
Oh.
And we are not even investing enough in the upstream. That's in
The production.
Palm
The
plantation.
yeah.
Yes. You just have 2 key players, Presco and Okumu, that keeps reaching record highs every day. And they always, in terms of top 10 performing stocks, you have Okumu and Presco.
Even this year, yeah.
Yes.
I heard they perform better than the oil and gas companies.
Oh, yes. I have a bit of... maybe we'll come to that, a very interesting moment where it was quite defining.
We'll come to that. But so you went and then you found out that they were processing it wrongly. Yeah. And then eventually, what happened? Like, what did you do?
So I found out that they were processing it, but it was not wrongly, right? Because the market felt, they felt the traditional palm oil had that fatty taste. And it was nice.
Okay, the market liked it.
The market liked it. So the market apparently doesn't actually know the difference in oil palm. What they know is that one that contains the fat is the good one.
Yes.
Yes. So
and it's not.
Well, it's not so healthy. I would say it's got saturated fat, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
But okay, so what did you do?
So what I had to now do was to see how I could now use my influence and also my network to see if I could bring investors to invest in developing oil palm plantations. Right. And so the first institution I went to was the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. That's the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Nigeria. NSIA. And I made them to understand the opportunities that were abound in the oil palm industry and why they needed to invest. And they said, unfortunately, they don't do direct investing. They have to go into a strategic alliance with a company that is already in it. And I said, okay. And so they got back to me and said there was a French company called Group Avil that were interested in it. And that if I can convince them on why they should gently invest, then we could explore it alongside the French development institution called Propaco.
Yes, I've heard of them.
Yeah, so that was it, right? So it didn't happen as quickly because I had this company that was producing the special palm oil in Edo State wanting to expand. And so they got some seedlings, they had some loans. But unfortunately, the entrepreneur, and which I feel it's very, very important, didn't really understand that even though there was a moratorium on the loan, it didn't mean that it was an interest free loan. It just meant that
So,
for some
so the French company and Properco were bringing in loan. It wasn't an equity.
No. So the French company and Properco, I brought them to salvage a situation. So this company that was producing special palm oil that wasn't producing enough had gone into investing in buying seedlings from Costa Rica, and they wanted to plant more.
Why are we buying seedlings? I thought we led palm oil production. I think there was a time we were the leaders in the world.
Correct. So it's a very unfortunate situation. So up until, I would say, the beginning of the Civil War, Nigeria was number one in terms of production of palm oil. But the Civil War set us back, and most of the plantations were in the southeast and south. I think that was a moment that we started to decline.
After the Civil War.
Yes, because we're ahead of Malaysia and Indonesia. But that was a very terrible period for us. And also the fact that we found crude oil, then it further just made us to lose our concentration. And so seedlings, yes, you have the local NIFOR Institute that produce seedlings, but entrepreneurs felt that countries like Costa Rica, Malaysia had improved those seedlings. And so you even had what you call the dwarf palm trees that don't grow too tall. And so it's easier to harvest, and the yield within 18 to 24 months.
Whoa.
Yes.
What would typically take 5 to...
What would typically take 3 to 4 years in 24 to 36 months. That was the whole idea of bringing those seedlings. Yes, and so that's basically what the company did. So, but unfortunately, they had issues, right? Because the bank kept asking that we're not seeing funds coming in, and they said they were invested in seedlings that, for at least for the first 3 years, would be like sunk cost until it starts to fruit. So that was the problem. Yeah. So I had to literally send an SOS call to the sovereign wealth fund. So I went from being a trader to now trying to see how I could structure a transaction to salvage a company from bankruptcy.
So, but this was not a company you owned.
No, it wasn't a company I owned. So in my mind, I felt it was maybe a venture capital play.
Private equity, more like private equity.
Yeah, but it's because I won't say private, because the company was not well defined, right? So you cannot, if you don't have cash flow, you don't have your books properly in place. I really felt maybe I could get a play between like business angels, venture capital, private equity. I made an ask. I remember asking the French company to give me a convertible loan of $10 million to see how I could do a turnaround. They laughed at me and said, "What are we turning around in this company?" We should. The best thing will be, Teslim, you are the asset here. Let's go and develop our own plantation.
And is that what you did?
That was what I felt it would be, some form of betrayal. So I decided that what I needed to do was maybe look at developing the value chain of a food crop and just wait for a Nigerian business angel or institution who will be able to salvage the situation. So I pivoted to rice, and pari passu, I was trading raw cashew nuts.
Okay, so you had cashews that you were trading.
Yes.
Because of your friend who invited you to the conference.
Correct.
And you had, did you get deals from that conference?
I got some deals, but unfortunately, I learned a very hard lesson, right? So for cashew, mostly transactions are C&F, meaning cost and freight. You don't, unlike if it's free on board, where as it gets to the port, you put in your papers, they'll pay you. It has to get to the destination. And so I started hearing some funny stories of, the cashew might germinate along the and because it was how do I put together
the cashew will germinate on sea.
Yeah, germinate on sea. I was like, how do I get my start up my capital, right, and get family to invest in something I was not sure of. And I just decided I needed to continuously trade locally with a very established company that I learned a lot from, by name Kewaram Charian Group. They're apparently the oldest Indian company. They gave birth to Olam, and they had a subsidiary called Springfield, that Intro Agrochemicals. So I met the MD, and he was quite enthused that we delivered our first truck, second truck, and he decided...
Okay, you were supplying him.
They're supplying them cashew. So it was a faster turnover for me and a way for me to build capital.
So then you were doing this, then you now decided to move into rice when palm oil was not working.
Yeah. When palm oil was, I decided to move into rice, right? And the rice plan was short-dated, is better, 90 days. Then I could obviously...
so did you go into primary production?
Primary production in Edo State. But we had some issues, right? Because
how big? How big?
The initial project was 4,000 hectares in Edo State.
4,000 hectares of rice.
Yes.
How big is it now?
4,000 hectares. Unfortunately, funding became an issue because the project was just too big. And we also had a change of government locally. The question was, why should one individual or two individuals be controlling 4,000 hectares of rice? And so that was another issue for me, because it made me realize why you can be young and ambitious as an African or as a Nigerian, as the case may be, but you also need to be a bit covert in terms of your operations so that people don't see you so much as a threat.
Why do you say so?
Well, I believe, unlike developed countries where you have young people that have been enabled by technology, create unicorns, it's a bit alien here. There's this perception that young people are not supposed to be too wealthy or supposed to control massive...
So you're a small boy, just be patient.
Yeah, exactly. You be patient. Maybe until you have more white hair than black hair, they feel... Then you have come of age.
So you faced some form of ageism then?
Yes, I did. And I had to continuously now prove myself why I needed to be on the table. And I think a very, very interesting part of this was when I now decided to actually look at cocoa. For cocoa, looking back at what had happened in Bonneville, I now needed to look at a revolution for cocoa. So the plan was...
What happened in Bonneville?
Bonneville, Birmingham, where the Cadbury brothers had put together the trust and they had developed the cocoa value chain there.
Oh, really?
Yes, in Birmingham.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was... So Cadbury is not
That's why we have Bonvita.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what did you learn from their story, like the Cadbury brothers?
Well, what I learned from them was the fact that there was every need to stay focused, start small, and be very consistent with your approach and stick to your vision.
So how did you apply it?
Good question. Cocoa is a very expensive commodity. And so I needed to now look at the key stakeholders that could make a revolution happen. So while I was dealing with rice, I had the disappointment of not scaling it as much as I wanted.
Because?
Yes, because I had issues with people feeling 4,000 hectares was too much.
For a young man?
For a young man. And my late partner, I felt with cocoa, lessons learned from rice an oil palm, I felt it would be nice to now literally give some opportunities to more people. And the plan was going to a rural area, which I did in Akwa Ibom, and start trading cocoa. But unfortunately,
does Akwa Ibom have cocoa?
Exactly, very good question. When I got into Akwa Ibom, there was no cocoa. I could barely get 100 tons, and this 100 tons was from the shared borders were Abia, so some of it came from Abia. Okay. It was that bad. And so what I had to do was tell the government, we need to empower and create a cocoa economy. And they were like, how? I was like, you are the government, give out seedlings, we'll buy back the cocoa beans, and we'll need to also invest in a cocoa processing plant so that we process the cocoa into powder, butter, and liquor. Then also now use the husk, which is the outer part of the pod, into organic, we call it organic caustic soda.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the blend of the organic caustic soda and oil creates what you call the African black soap. Then you can now add honey and all that. But the process of creating the potash is a bit of a hassle, because you have locally, you need the women to put in a pot, you need to stir it, and then you create the potash, then you now blend it with oil. And so I felt it was going to take care of issues with the environment, because then you don't have the cocoa pod littering everywhere. Then also some income for those who were involved in the process. So
you had all your stakeholders, you said?
Yeah, I had. So now, I'd already learned my lesson. Okay. I learned my lesson. Everyone was on the table. I didn't ignore anyone again, unlike the mistakes I made in the past. And it was quite interesting because we had the government give out 500,000 seedlings to farmers for free.
500,000 seedlings, that's how many hectares?
That easily can give 500 hectares.
500 hectares?
Yes.
So you basically had 500 hectares
of cocoa initially, just from the get-go. And then we put some more pressure on the government, and they gave out 700,000 seedlings. So it became 1.2, just like that. So it just kept snowballing.
1,200 hectares.
1,200 hectares. Today, I think we're at about 3,500 hectares of cocoa. Yeah, about 3.5 million seedlings have been given. It's not like a yearly ritual where the government will identify farmers and give them seedlings to just go and plant. And we all know the seedlings is actually the base case of anything that has to do with production.
Do these people farm like in a farming community, or how does it work?
So there are areas that we identify to local governments, Ikono and Ini, massive local governments. And so they have lands, ancestral lands, and they just plant those seedlings there. So you have the government has a nursery where they nurture from seed, nurture it. When it gets to like the seedlings, they now give it out. Yeah, to the farmers. And also there are some organic, although we had to now introduce some inorganic at some point because we could no longer cope. It was too expensive. And it presented another opportunity.
Which was?
Fertilizer.
So hold on. A young man returns to Nigeria. He goes selling cashew, tries palm oil. It doesn't pick up as fast. Comes back to rice. As he's doing rice picking up 4,000 hectares. Then he says, I want to try cocoa. Does cocoa with the lessons learned with the different governments and everything, ensuring everyone's on the table. They're now doing fertilizer. Am I correct?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes.
So you just kept discovering new value, new aspects.
I just kept discovering new aspects, right? Because 100 tons of cocoa was basically around $200,000, right? And what I saw was perplexing. So you had situations where farmers who used to beg you for money, all of a sudden came and were asking you for inputs. We want fertilizer, we want fertilizer, we want fertilizer. I was like, okay, so what's happening? So I decided the states had a blending plant that was managed by a company.
Okay.
I decided to go into a strategic alliance with them to now produce blended fertilizer. And remember, I had some engagement with the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Institution.
Yes.
Then, fortunately, they were now the ones that were tasked with ensuring that raw materials for the blending plants came in. So it was a case of even though you didn't invest in my project, but there is a blending plant that needs fertilizer, and I can offtake and also sell these fertilizers. So there was what we call the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative.
Yes, I'm aware of it.
Yes. And so I decided, okay, there's an opportunity for the cocoa farmers. There could be an opportunity for the rice farmers. There could be an opportunity for the oil palm farmers. And what they kept complaining about was you didn't have enough good quality fertilizer.
That's the farmers.
The farmers. So I felt the best way was now to get involved in the process rather than sit back and keep complaining. Why is the harvest poor? Why the soft commodities not properly put together? I just decided to now lead.
So, but run me through the mechanics of this. So typically now, is it the same farmers that collected last year that will collect the seedlings for the next year?
So for the cocoa, yes. If the whole drive now was to start getting more land.
Okay. So the farmers want more land.
Yes. So those that have had 1 hectare, even government officials that were coming to the end of their tenure actually got involved.
Yeah, because they wanted something to keep them after retirement.
After retirement. So it was a revolution.
So you now have 3,500 hectares of cocoa.
Yes.
That's how many tons?
Roughly, give or take, between 3,000 to 3,500 tons. In monetary terms, around $20 million.
3,500
to 3,500 tons.
Wow. Yearly?
Yes.
That is $20 million.
Roughly, with the current rate. Although it was a lot higher, right? Because
so you are making these farmers rich.
Of course. So that's the whole idea, right? We're putting money in the pockets of farmers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then you yourself, how did you now like?
So for myself, right, was to buy.
Obviously, you're not just a Santa Claus.
Yeah, of course. So the whole idea was I had to now pivot from being a core entrepreneur to being a social entrepreneur, right? And I felt at the first mile there was no need to struggle. Now I told the government, let's invest in processing the cocoa. And they felt, they were already seeing enough success. People were already living well in various communities. Why do they need to now invest further at that particular point in time? And then I saw another opportunity. I decided, okay, I needed to look at a local company that was quite bullish about processing for Sunclave to go into a strategic alliance with them. And fortunately, I've also found a young founder by the name John Alamo. He's the founder of John Vance Food, who was willing to now partner. And so the idea was they were also getting cocoa beans from the southwest. They were also getting from the south-south. And the powder, we could process it and also now put it in consumer packs and sell it back to
The
people,
local markets.
local markets.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was the whole idea.
So now you met the guys at John Vance.
Yeah.
I think those guys are big. I know them. They're into different
Yeah, they're into, yes.
products. So you met the guys at John Vance and say, you know what, I have cocoa.
Yeah.
Usually, I'm assuming that before you sell it abroad, you just...
Yeah, so the thing about cocoa is that even at your collection point, the warehouse in the rural areas, you have people come buy the cocoa beans. They even give you advance.
Oh, wow.
For the cocoa bean. It's that valuable.
You know, I have to be careful with this episode because I don't want anyone watching this and then they will not say, I want to go into cocoa. Well, I hope they do. I hope they do, but like obviously not. Like we need to get the facts and understand the mechanics, you know. Correct. So basically, you now partner with him to process your own cocoa?
Yeah, process some of our own cocoa, but a lot of, because it was quite bullish, right? So from 18,000, he acquired another company and it became 50,000 tons. I mean, how much of cocoa beans can I? So I just focused more using the Pareto principle on the powder and butter, trading the powder and butter, right?
Oh.
And so that's where, because the powder and butter was always available, and then I can now do it in the required tonnage.
Wow.
Yes.
So you had a 50,000 ton. So yours is just a 10% of...
It's very little. So I don't even focus too much. So for me, it's all about getting more orders, right, for the powder, or even adding more value to it.
Oh.
Right? And so we had consumer packs that could cater for the needs of 5 generations.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you mean by 5 generations?
So you have the baby boomer generation. The older generation, they don't want too sweet. So you have the pure cocoa powder. Although I say baby boomer, but I take it almost every morning.
Yeah.
Because it has a lot of antioxidants, and it's very good for the body.
Very good for the body.
Then you have also the generation X and Y. So that's the Y being the millennials that may have some kind of sweet tooth, and they will have to now. We now had to create the 3-in-1 sugar and milk. Yeah.
Under what trading names?
So John Vance.
Okay.
And now we have Michael. Michael is to appeal to the generation Alpha.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now you came to cocoa. What happened to your palm oil dream? Did you ever leave it?
No. I never left it. But I decided to now look at how best to create an ecosystem that will take into cognizance all the needs of stakeholders. Then I also had to approach my cousin, and I said, I've been doing this by myself. I need to collapse my structure on oil palm. The dream is bigger than myself, and let's go for something very big, right? And so now we are looking at a vision of developing 100,000 hectares in the next 15 years.
100,000 hectares of palm?
Yes.
In the next 15 years?
Yes.
Wow. 100,000 hectares. What's the current, you gave me a number. What's the current deficit we have currently in the market?
Minimum 1 million tons. And
what will it take to provide 1 million tons?
Well, so per hectare, if you have the oil palm properly milled, you have around 4 tons per hectare that can be produced of crude palm oil.
So
and that 4 tons per hectare is assuming that you are doing between 18 to 20 tons of fresh fruit bunches. So you have 4 tons per hectare.
So your 100,000 hectares will be...
Yeah, it doesn't sell
400,000 tons.
Correct. And trust me, it takes a lot. So I've had to now see another opportunity.
Which is
mechanization.
Of harvesting?
No. Now to develop the oil palm fields properly. Because if you don't clear your land properly, you won't get your yield per hectare. So now, just like what happened in fertilizer, I'm going into mechanization. So I need to now own those heavy-duty equipment to clear the land, then also now create an opportunity where others can lease. Because that area is currently very dysfunctional and highly fragmented. If today you want to clear 1,000 hectares of land, the equipments are not really there. You have to now buy. So there's need for a proper coordination so that those who want to invest can find proper land bank that's been cleared and now invest in it. Yes, I know the president has done well by bringing in 2,000 tractors from Belarus, but the issue is who coordinates it. The problem is not always with having those assets.
Some of them sit down dead somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So there's need for coordination. I've seen it play out in fertilizer. Now, thank God for the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. We have raw materials coming. But at the same time, if you don't have the private sector coordinating it properly, you might even have the raw materials, it might not even get to the farmers. Just the same way you have the tractors, it might not get to the right farmers. So what we want to do is now see how we can create that ecosystem that will assist in proper mechanization. So that's another opportunity because it's a key input.
So let me understand. Someone watching this now, looking at it, saying, you just do this. Run us through how do you go about, obviously I know you don't have all the money to explore, well, maybe you do. I mean, like, obviously you don't have all the money at every single time, right? You have to go syndicate or maybe remove money from some investments, and so how do you go about spotting an opportunity, sizing an opportunity with your financial mind, and then harnessing capital for the opportunity?
I think that's a very interesting question. Well, the first step is to actually understand what the market size is and what the market share potentially can be, can take advantage of. So it's usually out of necessity. So for instance, if I didn't have the cocoa farmers asking questions that needed good quality inputs, I would obviously not know that it was very important. And trust me, it's not just only fertilizer, also agrochemicals, which is crop protection. Remember the company that we started trading with, Springfield?
Yeah.
Right? They're one of the biggest. We also have Saru that we have a relationship with. And what has happened is, because I've been very, very diligent in ensuring that I'm trading with these companies, and they tend to now trust and give advance. Yes. So that is one area that I tried as much as possible to ensure. So you have, from the off-takers credit, which goes a long way. And it helps to now ensure that we can now not only meet their needs, but with that cash flow, the financial institutions can see us as credible. So in the last 11, 12 years of active trade, we've had zero financial scandal, and it's very rare in the agricultural sector. So we have some kind of brand equity that is helping to propel us. So if we come forward, Sunclave, myself, most people know it's something of value. And
so how have you been able to keep that?
It's very tough. I've had issues, a lot of issues. I've had challenges with some investments that were made. But the most important thing is, out of 10, we have more wins than losses.
So, but with all the challenges that you've experienced, what has been your worst day, and how did you prevent it from being a financial mishap? What has been your worst lesson? Or should I say the harshest?
The harshest lessons have been trusting the wrong people. But fortunately, we usually start small. And so the negative impact is not so much. But I would say the hardest has been the fact that you spot an opportunity, you achieve the turnover, but unfortunately, things like receivables, cash, and inventory does get pilfered.
How do you mean?
Stolen by the people that you trust.
Give me a scenario.
Tough question. Well, it's before the law enforcement agents, but we had issues where there was a last mile business for all classes of food, carbohydrates, proteins, and fat and oil. But unfortunately, the founders, the whole idea was to create like a Tyson Foods. That was the idea on paper, and that was projected. Unfortunately, we started off with working capital financing, and funds were diverted towards them paying some loans. And we now had situations where I had to now step in to guarantee the transaction. Unfortunately, just like they say, Lopa doesn't change his spots. He had issues of diversions of receivables and cash relating to the business. We made very good turnover in the business, but and the market was there, but unfortunately, it didn't just work out. And that's something I've seen consistently in Nigeria, where you have opportunities, but you don't have trustworthy people to handle affairs, and becomes an issue.
I mean, people often say that the agri space is very, very risky.
Yes.
And has also scared some people from exploring the agricultural space. What has been your experience? Because I think one of the things I observe in our market is that a lot of people say things we don't even know if it's true. But since you've been in the space, what are the risks? How does one hedge? How does one position to be able to explore for profit? Since, I mean, everyone is saying we should all drive the whole agricultural revolution, right? And everyone should go, let's go back and rebuild back our industries. And we all need it as a nation. But we can't just focus only on oil and gas, right? But how have you seen it from your experience?
Well, I feel this is a very, very, and I think this question goes directly to the nerves of why the agricultural sector might not be as developed. It's all about understanding that there are three parts to the value chain.
Okay.
You have upstream, which is production, midstream processing, downstream trade and distribution, just like in oil and gas, right? If you are coming into a sector, it's best you start off trading than trying to create an industry. Because if you look around the world, the most successful people were people who started off trading these, whatever they wanted to get involved in terms of from a production standpoint. With that, it will help to reduce some of the risk, because then you are seeing the physical inventory, you are selling, you're understanding the trade more. Then you also have to now understand that the headwinds attached to the business, you know it. If you go in straight to farming and you don't know who sells good fertilizer, and you don't know who has the agrochemicals, and you don't know whether the land is suitable, because most times people just want to go back to their ancestral lands rather than look at lands that are suitable. So for instance, we're doing oil palm and we have to bring the Malaysians and Indonesians to come and do proper feasibility study on the land bank to ensure that it's suitable, to ensure that it has the necessary potassium, it has the necessary nitrogen, phosphate. All those things have to be done. It's no guesswork. So you don't just see a land and say, oh, my grandfather was using it, or my uncle was using it, or people are doing this. It might not be suitable for the crop that you've chosen. And so to mitigate all those things, it's first you even know the market and understand what is happening in the market. Yeah, and that's why we have, as part of a strategic business unit, a downstream company, part of it, for just understanding what the consumers feel and think. Nigeria might be a big country, but the issue is they have disposable income. So you can't say, oh, you have an idea that chocolate, and you produce chocolate. You produce chocolate, but who are you selling to?
Yeah.
You can't produce chocolate and go to areas where they don't have disposable income and want to sell. Or you can't, as little as the way you package a product makes a difference.
Yeah.
There's a company that said, oh, we are doing well in distribution business. They wanted to give us sweet corn. And they gave us frozen sweet corn. So the issue is, who buys frozen sweet corn? So imagine going to bring a lot of frozen sweet corn.
First of all, we have power issues. Who has the fridge to be keeping this?
Do you understand? So these are some of the issues. And the ways to mitigate it is by understanding what the market is saying. Don't put your thoughts or your living standards as what the market wants. You must do your market research and constantly tweak your business model. You can see our business model is constantly evolving. And that's one of the reasons why we get very, very aggressive on strategic business alliances. We are constantly looking out for partnerships. Constantly. We can't do it alone. We don't operate in silos. And that's, I would say, has been part of the reasons why we've been successful. We don't... You see, it boils down to also understanding of what an asset is. So one of the very best things I learned from accounting was the definition of what an asset is.
What's an asset?
Well, an asset is not a resource owned. It's a resource controlled that will lead to an inflow of economic benefits.
This is so funny. You're right, because, oh my God. Teslim, you know why I like you? It's your clarity. I like your clarity. You started by saying that you'll be always meticulous.
Correct.
That's very, very... So, I mean, to be sincere, I think I was doing a finance course recently, and this actually came up, and I was like, So now that you said it, I said, it means something to me. Yeah. So you rather treat it like a resource controlled.
Correct.
Because in your balance sheet, it's going to sit there quite well.
Very well. And so I'm very conscious of my balance sheet. Very, very conscious. And I think that's something to actually ponder about, because most times entrepreneurs don't understand they have found themselves in a quagmire until they go to the bank and they say they can't give them money.
Why?
Because their balance sheet is encumbered already. Maybe loans, so much loans, and they literally just overtrade or structure their businesses like a Ponzi scheme.
Okay, so explain to us that are watching this podcast now. I know this is like us asking for free consulting, but help us. Help the thousands of entrepreneurs that are going to watch this. Yeah. What are the mistakes that people are making when structuring their business for their balance sheet to be able to receive capital or investment?
I feel some of the mistakes, one, their capital structure. You don't go to the bank first for capital. It doesn't work because it has an interest. So what you should do is look at family and friends. Let them give you patient capital. And I think this boils down to something that is firmly at the back of my mind. I've looked at Africa, and I feel what Africa actually needs are various family offices. So you have families that are maybe in their second or third generation that have been quite successful, coming together to actually understand and look at businesses that they can invest into and put in place proper corporate governance and controls. I think that is what Africa needs, because it's a bit of a very slow start for businesses. I see a lot of companies now rely on technology. Technology is an enabler, right? It's not what you should bank on. You need to do the heavy lifting. And so a lot of companies don't want to do the heavy lifting. Their capital structure, they go to the banks or very easily try to meet their friends without testing their business model. Before you meet someone for money, you need to be careful that this money, you are investing it in a business that you are sure will earn some returns. The reason why is because it will be very difficult if you go to an institution like a bank or you go to a friend that you failed and ask for more money. So you find out that a lot of businesses don't have liquidity. Another issue is they don't want to take baby steps. You just created a company and you want to own a building. How is that possible? The building, yes, you might call it an asset, right? But it's sunk cost. Maybe those monies should have been better utilized in ensuring that you boost your cash flow or invest in other businesses rather than trying to make a statement by putting out a building or even investing in cars that are depreciating assets, right? So I feel financial education is very important. Most entrepreneurs don't understand the language of business, which is accounting and finance. Then also, in terms of how you structure a business, if you are not a lawyer or you don't understand how law works, why don't you get a partner and give him some equity so that he can guide you through how best to go into business transactions? As simple as ensuring that, the payment terms attached to supplies has to be shorter and it has to be backed by an understanding, agreement.
So that's your payable period.
Payable. So you have a lot of companies working with negative working capital where they have a lot of receivables, then inventory, right? The inventory, they are put cash in inventory and it's either sitting there or is in receivables, and very few payables. People are not paying them. So at the end of the day, they always say they don't have money. Why will you have money when you are not looking at those indexes? Exactly. Yeah. So it all boils down to them understanding. Then there's also the qualitative side to it. Fortunately, during my postgrad in Manchester, my dissertation was on the balanced scorecard. And the balanced scorecard is a performance measurement system that helps you to look at 4 prisms, not just financial. So people don't usually look at the qualitative side. So for instance, if you have proper internal business processes, right, because you've been investing in learning and development, research and all that, obviously your internal business processes will be well put together and customers will come to appreciate that there's some innovation around what you are doing. And your product or service has some unique selling propositions. So they will pay you. So it's not hard. It's not hard or fast. The question is, what are your value propositions? It's not usually very clear. People entrepreneurs don't know how to project what they are offering. And if you don't know what they are offering, how will you get paid?
Give us an example. So,
for instance, I've had situations where I've had to deal with a company that was into production of yogurt. They were producing a particular. They had different products, and they wanted to penetrate, like, I won't say the upper class area on the island in Lagos, but their product wasn't fit for purpose. So I had to sit down with them, and I told them there's need to create a dedicated product that will meet like a farm fresh.
Okay.
Right?
High level.
And guess what?
They did.
And it's been one of the very good success stories, because we get to distribute that on the island too.
Oh, really?
Yes, good quality yogurt.
You guys have good quality yogurt in Lagos.
Correct.
Okay, so how can we get more patient capital in African agricultural space, in Nigeria, though?
Well, very good question. I think it starts first with proof of concept. Like what I've done with cocoa now, I can talk about it because it's real. People can see. So entrepreneurs need to try in a small way to prove that whatever they are doing is scalable. Then, like I said, family offices, we need more family offices. People who are well off, I would like to appeal to them. Don't just keep your funds in the bank. Don't take it outside the country. Try to look out for businesses, small cap, mid cap companies with good founders, and invest patient capital into them. All right. Then also there's need for us to have, like what we are doing, more of this kind of podcasts, awareness. People need to know what is happening in the sector, because if you don't know, how do you invest? Right? And so genuine people need to come forward to tell their stories on how best this can work. Then I know a lot of people talk about foreign direct investment. The truth is, they have to see what you are doing locally before the investment can come. If people are not seeing what you are doing, it becomes an issue. I remember 4 years ago when I did decided to put together a documentary, and documentary went far and wide. I had inquiries from all over the world, right, on the documentary, because then they now saw genuine use cases, and they could now actually see, oh, you're not just talking about rice paddy. This is how it's processed. You're not just talking about cocoa. This is what happens from the cocoa bean to processed powder. You're not just talking about fertilizer. You're seeing it being used in a maize farm that we offered consultancy to in Kishi or your state. You understand? You're not just talking about soap. It can also come from organic caustic soda. So it's all about presenting various use cases, and them also understanding that you don't need to just be in one sector. You can be, which is the sector everybody knows that ends foreign exchange, which is oil and gas. You can also be in agriculture, sell cocoa powder or butter, sell processed cashew nut, and make foreign exchange. Even trade fertilizer, which is a key input, and also earn some returns.
I mean, they say the next generation of African billionaires will not necessarily come from tech. They will come from agriculture. What do you think about that?
I feel it's partially correct.
Okay.
I feel a combination of agriculture and technology will make those billionaires. And that's what we're going for.
Where's the opportunity?
AI. Really? AI will redefine activities on production, processing, and downstream. In fact, I have my CTO who has been a partner for some time, based out of Abu Dhabi, and is an AI expert.
An agricultural company has a CTO?
Yes.
Wow.
And because we are looking at technology, we are looking at how the role technology can play in helping the whole value chain. And that's the vision.
In what ways have you seen it play a major role? Will it create jobs? Will it destroy jobs? How do we make it a bit more sensible to our markets?
Well, for instance, we are looking at experience centers similar to what Apple did, where consumers can come in, a blend of virtual reality and artificial intelligence for people to actually see what happens. We are also looking at it in production, guiding farmers, smart farming, when to farm, the inputs they need to actually put in the ground. Then we're also looking at it in the area of organizing the movement of both from the first mile to the processing plant, and also even in the processing plant and downstream, ensuring that we actually target the right customers.
So, I mean, to be sincere, when I look at the various crops that you're currently playing, I mean, can you tell us a bit about what your current agricultural or what your current value chain of involvement is currently?
I would say we are active in all commodities that Nigeria has a comparative and competitive advantage in.
What are they?
Across different regions. Oil palm, cocoa, rice, cashew nuts, sesame seed, soya beans. Right. Hibiscus.
So what about share?
Share is a bit tricky because I've not been able to identify a partner company that processes share.
Well, I think there's one.
Although there's a company in Southwest, but the issue is there's need to be able to process it to achieve the right quality.
There's these guys that opened up in Mina. I think I heard about them.
Yes. Well, there's currently a ban on the export of raw share.
Yeah.
So but I usually do not like getting involved when everybody's in a trade. So I'm greedy when others are fearful. I'm fearful when others are greedy.
Okay. So if you had the president's ear for 5 minutes, what policy will you tell him that you need to do this one now?
Policy to do now, oil palm. There is need for us to see how we can enable the value chain. It doesn't make sense that we used to be number one and we don't have enough oil palm. Then also cocoa. There's also need for us to see how we could add more value to cocoa. Yes, currently there are few processors, but more processors can come in.
Oh, really? I thought it was like a cult right now that nobody can get in.
No, well, it seems like that because the barrier to entry is quite high. You need around $20 million to go into processing. so
I mean, that even leads me to that leads me to my next question, right? So I'm going to pick a crop,
yes,
and I'm going to tell you upstream, midstream, and downstream. And you will tell me how much I need to pay in that space. Can we play that game?
Yes, please.
Okay, so rice.
Downstream.
Distribution.
Yes, because the president, the price of rice was going too high, and he needed to do some intervention, and I rightly accept that, even if I process. But I feel rice is the number one staple commodity. It should not be too expensive.
So let me ask a question. So if I want to go into the rice business now, would you advise me to go into it?
I would say downstream, trade.
Rather than process or...
Yeah, trade and maybe grow the paddy. Trade and grow the paddy. Okay, yes. Palm oil. Upstream. You need to invest in plantations.
How much does it take to invest in a plantation?
So a hectare, if done properly well, before it starts fruiting, in dollar terms, around $5,000 to $6,000.
Not bad.
Yes.
But then, what's a good size?
Exactly, that's the question. And because of monetary and evaluation, yeah,
1,000 hectares.
I would say 500 hectares.
500 hectares, still, yeah. That's $3 million.
Yeah. Well, you need to, you need the right quality of people to be assigned to various the key roles. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you would rather say go into the upstream?
Yes.
Rice, downstream.
No, you can also trade palm oil too.
Okay, trade. Okay, that's fair enough. Process, uncle.
if you don't have the fruits, how will you process? It's a problem.
Okay, so
but there's another
lack of
opportunity.
fruits in the
There's lack of fruit. There's another opportunity, palm kernel nuts, which is inside the oil palm.
Okay, yeah, those things we used to eat them as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And guess what? Palm kernel nuts, if it comes in black, but you can purify it in such a way that it becomes golden yellow, then refine it, and it becomes vegetable olein that you can use to fry plantain. But you have to deodorize it first.
So that's a long process.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let me give you another product, cassava.
Cassava used to be quite interesting on the upstream, but now the price of ethanol is crashing globally.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so the price of cassava is coming down. And issues, in fact, the meeting I left before this, there was an issue of starch.
Okay.
It's a lot of starch. So I would say cassava, Nigeria is one of the largest producers of cassava.
That's why I asked.
Correct. So except if you can add some more value to it, it will be a bit difficult. On the upstream, I struggle a bit to sell at the right price.
So but that means downstream.
Correct. Distribution. With that, you already have the flour or starch.
Okay, let me give you one more. Cocoa.
Cocoa is quite interesting. Cocoa, now, we launched the cocoa revolution in 2020. And from 2020 up to 2023, it was a black swan. No, from 2021 to 2023, price just kept rising. Got up to about
You guys are balling.
$11,000. Then, but in the last 1 year, it has lost 50%.
It's about $5,000 now.
Then $6,000. So, cocoa farming, that's the upstream still pays. Midstream, because it's capital intensive and you need a lot of power. Constant
How much
power.
do you need?
I would say $20 million because it's not just investing in machinery. You need to buy the raw materials too.
So that means agriculture is not for the poor.
No, it is. But the issue is if you decide to look at it from a mainstay, you need to.
I mean, but if I invest $20 million, how long do you think it will take me to get back my money?
So you now have to go across different soft commodities. And that's part of the reasons why it looks as if we are dancing. We're not dancing. We are just looking out for where, using the Pareto principle and cherry picking.
The 20% that will bring
The
80%.
80%, correct.
I think someone told me that the best way to look at investing is like mixed farming.
Because I'm a good student of Warren Buffett, right? So I felt that was not it. But coming to Nigeria, I've had to think global and act local. Mixed farming, it is.
Because you have to have the short term, the one that
Medium term.
because I mean, I kind of see that in your portfolio, right? You are doing rice, you are doing cocoa, you are doing palm oil. These are some of them are long term, some of them every year.
Correct.
Yeah, so like obviously that's what you're practicing, right?
Correct.
Interesting. So I mean, we are fixing to come to the end of this episode, but it's been a very, very interesting episode. If there's any myths about agriculture that you've heard that being in the space has made you bust, like you're like, see, this is not true. What would that be? Is there anything that you say, people always say this, but you need to really get in the business?
Yeah. I feel the number one myth is you need to get dirty, you need to farm to be in agriculture. Hell no. It is not true. There are other parts of the value chain that you don't need to get dirty. And in fact, more people need to get involved in
Agriculture.
Yes. If you are trading chocolates, you're in agriculture. You don't have to trade cocoa beans.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can have people who have gone to proper universities, have their masters, even PhD, even if they are professors, come in to look at it. So you don't need to be dirty to be in agriculture.
I mean, there's been this whole drive of trying to make agriculture sexy to the youth. Yeah, I think people have been trying to do that, and I think it will be good for people to actually. So this answers it. So if you could plant one idea in every young African entrepreneur's mind, what would it be?
Well, you need to make hard choices. Forget about just trying to make easy wins. There's nothing easy. You need to be deliberate and go for opportunities that might not produce results now, but have the potentials to. So don't go for easy peasy lemon squeezy. It doesn't exist.
Have you ever been tempted to leave like Africa and just run away back to?
Well, because I understand, I came with a vision, right? I have all my siblings out of the country. It's
But
tough.
you just happened to.
Yeah. And initially they were trying to drag me because they didn't really know what I was doing. But now, at least I have two of them coming back, and we're just four. So coming back, not first, but at least they want to come back a lot more often. So they are coming for Dirty December.
Well, that's a good starting point. That's a good starting point. Okay. I mean, and I think just a few more questions here. It says, how does a man in agriculture relax? What do you do after a long week?
Good question. So I'm not so much too big on games, sporting activities, but what I do, I try to socialize, meet up with friends. I don't drink, like I'm a social, I hardly, so it doesn't entice me. But those meet very intelligent. I'm psychosexual, so meet intelligent people. So even when I'm relaxing, my brain is thinking of the next opportunity because I don't know where it is or where can find it, right? Also going to the cinemas, listening to jazz and country music.
See, jazz started playing. Jazz? My phone just picked it up.
Yeah.
Oh wow, interesting. And what's like five? Give us five. You read a lot.
Correct.
Give us 5 recommendations that you can do. Oh, no, 3. That someone can read, and I think you think it will help their entrepreneurial journey.
I look at entrepreneur, so there is an emotional intelligence part of it. The first book I would say is not something that might cut out well in entrepreneurship, but it has been quite helpful. 48 Laws of Power, right? Because it has made me to understand that you need to trade cautiously as an entrepreneur. You don't have to, especially when it has to do with you come into as an entrepreneur, you want to outshine people. It doesn't work. So you need to keep yourself properly grounded.
Okay. 48 Laws of Power, number 1.
Outliers.
Okay. Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, it's also a very interesting book. Then the last, it comes down again to understanding that entrepreneurship is like war. So Art of War has been very, very good for me because I do a lot of mental exercise before I engage in either discussing with people or coming up with strategy. So strategy plays a key role. It's not about knowledge, right? There are sometimes I find myself in situations where I have to just be extremely humble in relating with people. I go into the markets, meet my customers. They don't even know that this they can't differentiate who the boss is. Right? All these things have to boil down to strategy and ensuring that you are not too aloof. So I feel more of strategy than just the books that naturally will make you aspire to perspire.
Yeah, I mean, I recently read something somewhere. It said you learn more about finance from studying non-financial books about human nature.
Correct.
And then you learn more about human nature by studying finance. This is very interesting.
Yeah. Because see, honestly, first degree accounting, second degree accounting and finance, corporate finance, private equity, so it comes to me naturally. So why should I still be reading what comes to me naturally? It's like my second nature. I should focus on what will help me to deal with humans, right? And
because at the end of the day, that's what makes
that's what makes the difference. Because my social and emotional quotient needs to be high enough to be able to deal with them and ensure that I have continuous repeat business.
Mr. Teslim, thank you so much for your
most
time.
welcome, Elijah.
And thank you for giving us from your valid.
No, honestly, I think what you are doing, Venture
resource.
Valley, is a very good. It's a very good platform. I hardly ever do podcasts, but
Yes,
I was quite enthused about the fact that with what you are doing, and I feel this will actually be a platform that will go global. Just keep at it. Your team are wonderful. They are down to earth. They are inquisitive, and they are hungry. And that's what you need to succeed.
Thank you very much. I'm really, really grateful for you taking out time to be here. So, guys, like I told you, it was a very, very wonderful episode. I didn't want it to end. And I'm sure if you enjoyed this also and you know someone who needs to watch this, like, share, subscribe, comment in the section. And if you need to know more about the guest, you want to connect with him more, check out this, the comment section. We'll give you a little bit about his company and what he does and how you can stay connected with the work that he's currently building from Africa. Looking forward to catching you in the next episode.